Hello, I hope you're doing well. So I wanted to make this little video, just to share some tips on how you can, what are some things you can do when you're working with someone who's dealing with this current challenge, or if you're working with someone who's been infected at this point of time. Okay, so the first thing is to listen. Now, a lot of people probably do not need any solutions. They're uncertain, helpless, future's just gone. So unpredictable, right? So what a lot of people want is probably to express. So one request I have is just listen, and you don't need to take in everything that they're saying, but just listen and allow them to express. And I'll tell you why I'm emphasizing. I feel this needs to be emphasized. I On Facebook, I think it was yesterday, I read a post that somebody had put up, and I liked the article. It was so somebody put up saying, "Look, we're here to support you. We listen. We're probably not giving you solutions, but we are there for you," and which I thought was really nice. Then when I was reading the comment section, there was one person who wrote, I'm really scared, I'm afraid and uncertain, helpless. And the person who had put up the post replied by saying, we can get over this, and you have to stay positive. And so there was advice coming from the very person who had said, look, we're not going to give any solutions, we will listen. And I thought, hey, what you said that you're going to provide, you're not demonstrating that in your writing, at least. So I think it's very important for us to just listen, and how to listen. You just be there, allow people to express. Okay. So I hope this gets the point across. Just listening to people will make a huge difference to their experience. Now, the second thing is to pace and lead them. As you're listening, make sure that you're in rapport with them, you're pacing them. And how do you pace them? You ask them, you backtrack, feedback some of the things that they've said. So somebody said, I feel I'm not able to breathe properly, and my breathing is, become really short, and I'm really scared. And I had to feedback and say, okay, so your breathing has become short, okay, and you're feeling scared. And the person went, yes. So remember, when you're backtracking, when you're feeding back, and people go yes, they have a sense that you understand what their world is about. Okay, so they're going yes, yes. So we call this, you help them move into the yes room. Okay, so by backtracking, by being with them, um, uh, you're pacing them, and then once you pace them, then you can lead them. You can lead them by asking them a question. Is it okay if I ask you some questions? Is it okay? One way to pace them is to acknowledge what they're going through. Okay, you're going through intense fear. Okay, now, is it okay if I asked you some questions? My guess is that you don't want to be feeling this way. Is that right? Make sure that they're going yes. Okay, unconsciously also they're going yes. And when they say yes, or when they're ready, and then say, okay, is it okay if I ask you some questions? Because now you're beginning to lead them in a different direction from where they were. Okay, so listen, pace, and begin to start leading them. Now, my guess is the biggest problem for most people is a lack of uncertainty. There's a lack of control at this point of time. There's so many things that we could control. We knew what time we could go out, not go out, what to do, what not to do. And now everything is just taken off. Right? The whole structure has been lost. So and we're supposed to get used to a new structure, which most of us are not used to. So remember, for most people, there's a lack of control, and that's what's creating the uncertainty. And one of the things that we can do is help them in some way access or begin to start feeling a sense of control. And what you could do is, when you say to them, look, I understand that, uh, is it okay if I ask you some questions? And say yes. And then you can also ask them something like, okay, okay, can you tell me if you were to give one name to how you're feeling, just one word to describe your current emotion, what would that be? And let's say they say intense fear or uncertainty, helplessness. Okay. And then you ask them, okay, so if there is what state or emotion, inner resource, if you are able to feel, or when you are able to feel, you think would make a difference. Okay, so now if you notice, so what you're going is you're moving towards a resource. You're acknowledging what they're experiencing, and now you're beginning to help them identify the resource that can make a difference to them. So some of them might say confidence, some of them might say being in charge, being in control, being confident. So that's a state that they would like to access. That's a resource that they want. You say, okay, now let's say, and you can ask them further, okay, so when you have confidence, what will that give you? What will that do for you? And say, it'll help me deal with this a lot more better. It'll help me go through this in a much more courageous manner. So let's say, okay, now they've identified a resource. So that'll be step 3. Help them identify the resource that they want to access. The next step, I think, is important in helping them come up with ways in which they can access that resource. So, for example, if someone says, what I feel is a lack of control, and what I want is to be in charge. Okay, so what are some things? What is one thing that you can do that can help you feel more in charge? What are 2 things you can do? What are 3 things you can do? So help them identify and come up with certain things. And these might be nothing related to work, money, emotions, none of that. It can be something as simple as I remember one of my clients once said that, okay, what can I do to be in charge? When I get up, I will go and drink a glass of water because I know that is something that I can do and I will do. And just by taking that particular action, she was beginning to feel in charge, beginning to get control. So help them identify and come up with a few things that can help them be more in control in this situation. If it's confidence, what are some things that they can do to help them access that state of confidence? Okay, so listening, pace and lead them, identify the resource or resources that would make a difference. The next one is to come up with ways in which they can access that resource. Then the 5th step would be to help them create a routine or a structure for the coming days. Okay, help them come up with, times when they're going to be meditating, or when they're going to do breathing exercises, when they're just going to do their journaling, or when they're going to be doing their cooking. Help them come up with routines. The very things that they said will help them feel in control. Help them, so work with them so that they build a routine. Okay. So now, once they've gotten this aspect in place, on paper they would have gotten the routine. Then you ask them to imagine when they begin to start doing this. So basically, future pacing. When they begin to start doing this, how would the day be? How would the next day be? What do you see happening? So now, what they're doing is they're walking into the future with that resource. The resource of maybe being confident, being courageous, being brave, being in control, being in charge. So that is something that will help people go through this particular situation in this period. Okay, so that would be, I'm going to call it step 6. That is future pace, and help them tap into their imagination. Help them use the imagination as to how they're going to be, right, with this resource. The last step, if you want, is to create some kind of a support system. You can ask them, okay, so, what support would you like for me to ensure that, you have this in place, this routine in place? And they probably tell you, I'll text you, or, I'll let you know how I'm feeling, or can you just check on me? However you want to set that up. So these are 7 things that I've thought of. Listen and just be present to them. Pace and lead them, and that's important. As you're listening, pace and lead them, and then you acknowledge, and then you help them identify a resource or resources that if they had, they could, when they have, it'll make a difference. Then come up with ways in which they can access that resource. Then to build a routine, and a structure for that resource, and to access those resources, then to imagine and future pace, and then a support system. Okay, so I've mentioned 7 things. You may or may not do all the 7. It doesn't have to be in sequence, but I hope you get an idea of what we're looking at. People are here in this particular place, and what we want to do is we want to work with them to help them move from this place to this place. And when they are in this place, it can change their experience. A metaphor I have for how a lot of people seem to be, the experience for a lot of people right now is, imagine that they're going wall climbing or rock climbing, and if there's nothing to hold, they're going to slide down. And what we're doing is, with the structure, with those resources, we're helping them create pegs which they can hold on to, and as they hold on to, they can pull themselves up and come up and get to the top. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share. I hope you find this useful, and when you do any work that you find useful, please make sure that you share it on the group. Okay, take care. Bye bye.